Hello, folks, and welcome to the show. My name is Asa Morris, and this is Weird Week, our lucky 13th episode. In celebration, I've gone full mid-90s paranormal guy that you see on our TV show. He sits in an attic. He's David Cross in Men in Black, any random X-Files UFO investigator who is not part of the government. Well, that's me today. I picked this hat up at a Goodwill in Burlington, Vermont. It's a good hat. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us once again. We've got a much more varied show than we had last week. There's still plenty of UFO stuff, but there is much more this week. Before we get started, the usual jazz, of course, and don't worry, I'm going to be quick. Make sure you hit up the link tree in the description for the links to all of our things, the socials, the merch, the Patreon, the podcast. No gag this week, considering we're between seasons. Just kidding. Follow this podcast. Also, make sure you do the big 5. Like, comment, sub, sub, bell, share. Like, share. The big 5. Let's get into it. Boom! How fast was that intro? Much better. Folks, last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, maybe 3, we discussed Canadian airline pilots and their plethora of reported and unreported sightings. Well, on Sunday, the Vancouver Sun ran this article: 911 dispatchers fielding more calls about UFO sightings. RCMP, that's Royal Canadian Mounted Police, 911 dispatchers are reporting much higher numbers of calls regarding UFO sightings, landings, and even home invasions from alleged creatures. While the article calmly explains the craft sightings as people bored at home during quarantine, spending time looking at the stars and misidentifying satellites, that explanation doesn't necessarily account for the craft landings reported or the multiple creature home invasion calls. Reports were up 46% in 2020, according to the RCMP, in comparison to previous years. Unfortunately, the article does not go into greater detail about the more bizarre aspects of the calls. Also on Sunday, near the Lockheed Martin facility in Fort Worth, Texas, this video was captured.
It's on fire.
What is that? It can't even focus on it, but it's on fire.
No, that's literally,
Is that like a plane or something?
a drone? No.
Hell no, that's just big.
That is huge. That's
That's a grown ass drone.
that's
Well, it's
massive.
still going up.
I think it's going down now.
My initial guess was that this was a Chinese lantern, the way it's colored, the way it seems to flicker a little, though it does seem to move quicker than a Chinese lantern. So I don't know. On Monday, Phantoms and Monsters posted a write-up of another recent Chicago Mothman sighting, given by a shuttle bus driver, and again at O'Hare Airport, who saw the creature on April 21st of this year. Their description in the initial report of the creature is as follows: I saw a large owl fly over the top of the building and disappeared behind the parking garage. It must have been at least 30 to 40 feet off the ground when I saw it fly over. It made no sound and looked like a giant black thing with very large wings. I saw it for all of 2 to 3 seconds as it flew overhead and over the building and out of sight. The investigator Manuel Navarrete later followed up with the witness, who elaborated slightly further. He stated that he was certain that it was not a large bird, as the wingspan was easily 15 to 20 feet in width, and the object seen was easily the size of a human being. He described it as humanoid in shape and solid black and moving faster than he had seen any bird fly. The witness also added that he was advised by his superiors that it was a misidentification of a large bird and that he should not speak to anyone else about these sightings. This fits the Mothman description for the last 50 or 60 years to a T. I sincerely hope we have more than a few investigators in Chicago right now. Also on Monday, near Temecula, California, this photograph was taken, showing an oddly shaped metallic object in the sky. Reddit user Taco Del Grande, who took the photo, stated that he saw the object just after 6 a.m. and that he thought it was a blimp, but noticed the shape was wrong. They later gave a solid description of their location, camera used, as well as a few other pictures. To me, this seems incredibly similar to the metallic blimp photo that was recently officially recognized as a UAP. Good God, it is too hot in Texas to just wear a hat indoors while you have the AC off so you can record your paranormal news show. Good grief. So anyway, on Tuesday, Travis Taylor, a lead investigator for the History Channel show Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, pay me History Channel, did an AMA over on Reddit. The entire AMA is worth the read, especially because while Taylor acknowledges that many strange things occur in that area, he also remained grounded and scientific about his experiences and research. To be honest, I had no interest in this show, but now, maybe. Pay me, History Channel. On Wednesday, over on that one podcast with that one guy, Christopher Mellon was the guest of honor, and we got a small bit of fun, if not interesting, insight into his views on everyone's favorite so-and-so, Bob Lazar.
I'm a little skeptical about his claims, I have to say. A friend of mine claims to know the gal who was his supervisor when he worked out there and knows what he was actually doing and where he was located, and claims that he was a guy who checked radiation on badges.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so all the rest is fiction.
According to that story.
And this is a person that you know?
Yeah.
Maybe that person's full of shit.
Maybe.
How about that?
You know,
Maybe
I
they
don't
work
have
for
the
the
ground
government.
truth on this,
Yeah.
but
It's
but
interesting.
he did falsify his educational records, and he's been involved in some other things, and it just doesn't.
You
track
talking about
with
the
what,
MIT records?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't say I necessarily disagree, but given Mellon's position, I can't say I entirely buy his reasoning either. This is obviously the effect of sorting through decades of disinformation, misinformation, good information, bad information. A nightmare. And entirely done on purpose. Also on Wednesday, a local reporter for KAOT out in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Brittany Hope, shot this video from a rooftop of multiple lights in the sky. Later on social media, a few more videos popped up of the event that seemed to resemble Starlink, though the lights seemed to fade in and out and change position as seen in the video.
Look, there's like multiple.
On Thursday, a day-long rabbit hole popped up on TikTok from user Chronicles of Olivia, who, while replying to a video discussing the missing 411 phenomenon, shared her odd event in the Pacific Northwest. It's a long series of videos, but I highly recommend watching it. Here are some of the highlights.
This is me. This is my mom 8 years ago, summer of 2013. Something very unexplainable and controversial happened to us at the top of this mountain. It's actually something that you can Google. There was a case about it, and it's something that my mom and I don't really talk about. We haven't told any close friends. I've kept this pretty much private, and it's something that is just unexplainable. This happened at Lena Lake, which is in the Buckhorn Wilderness. The encounter that my mom and I had became a case. We were contacted by a reporter. And there are things that the government knows about that I know that the public does not know. They keep this a secret, and I understand because they don't want to scare people. I get it. That's understandable. But there are creatures, there are humanoids that live in these national parks that are not yet classified as a species yet. They are there. They exist. They live in perfect harmony with nature. They're perfectly fine. No one needs to bother them. I was exploring alone at this point, and the weather did clear up a little bit, which was nice. And my mom was at the campsite, and I was walking over here at this embankment, this mud embankment by the lake. So here's a better photo. You can see everything. And I walked to the edge of this mud embankment, and I was standing there in complete awe because this whole entire area, and you can even see the indents in the mud, there were hundreds and hundreds of footprints. But like, they were the weirdest footprints I'd ever seen. They were huge. Some of them were like like ginormous footprint. These footprints were inches deep, and I was basically in shock because it just didn't make any sense. So here's the photo. This right here, this ridge right here, is called a mid-tarsal break. Human footprints do not have a mid-tarsal break. This is where it gets a little creepy, is that the footprints, all of them, entered and exited this location from this spot right here. Here's another view of that location. It's right here. All the footprints entered and exited from right here. Another thing to note, there are no trails and no campsites on this entire mountain. On the Lena Lake website, it literally says right here that rangers will write tickets to anyone that is not camping in the designated campsite. So essentially, it's illegal to camp anywhere that's in this area. And these footprints only came and left from this location.
And now I kind of want to book a flight. On Friday, the apparent unwitting mascot of this show, Lou Elizondo, had a bit of an odd moment during an interview with the New York Post show The Basement Office, which has to be an X-Files reference, right? The host, Stephen Greenstreet, asks Elizondo to clarify a metaphor he had made, which leads to this.
You study it any way you can. It's very much like recreating the scene of an accident, okay? So you may come up to an accident and you see two cars collided, but you don't know the circumstances in which the accident occurred. So you start collecting the evidence. You start talking to eyewitnesses. You get the telemetry from the vehicle itself and the accelerometers. Then what you do is you find some cameras that were on the street corner that actually saw the cars 5 seconds before they hit.
I
Then
got
you
it.
talk to people that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but in
Yeah.
your analogy, you said the vehicle itself is part of the evidence. You go up to it, you look at it, you examine it. Was that happening with ATIP?
Oh, wow, great question. I got to be careful how I answer this. That was certainly would be preferred.
Listen, government NDAs are no joke, but I kind of feel like this was a non-answer answer. Also on Friday, Popular Mechanics ran this incredible article. Scientists believe these photos show mushrooms on Mars. An international team of scientists from countries including the US, France, and China have gathered and compared photographic evidence they claim shows fungus-like objects growing on the red planet. In the new paper, which appears in Scientific Research Publishing's Advances in Microbiology, the scientists point to a set of opportunity photos that shows 9 spheres increasing in size and an additional 12 spheres emerging from beneath the soil over a 3-day sequence. The researchers claim Martian wind didn't uncover the amorphous spheres, and that they expand in size or, conversely, change shape, move to a new location, and or wane in size and nearly disappear. Obviously, there's been a ton of pushback on the findings, the articles, the scientists, but isn't that just the way in academia? On Saturday, a week-long event finally came to a close. The crash of the Long March 5B rocket. For the last week, the rocket has been erratically orbiting the Earth, leaving basically everyone puzzled about where it could land, and on Saturday at 10:15 p.m., it finally entered Earth's atmosphere and crashed harmlessly into the Indian Ocean just north of the Maldives. The Chinese Space Agency said most of the rocket was even destroyed upon re-entry. If you follow our TikTok, you'll know that I was a little bit freaked out due to a weird, seemingly prophetic dream I had had a number of years ago regarding a rocket. And that's our week! If you see something throughout the week that you'd like me to take a look at, either on this show or on the podcast, which will be returning in June, hit us up on any of the socials or directly at lowstrangeness@gmail.com. If you would like more in-depth discussion of various topics or my own personal experiences sometimes, make sure you check out the podcast. Try to go the other direction. Didn't really work. It's going to look weird in post. Low Strangeness. Season 1 just ended and the entire season is available for purchase over at lowstrangeness.bandcamp.com. And Season 2 will be beginning in June, just in time for this disclosure event. and we'll be running through the whole Throwawailian time period as well. So it's going to be an interesting summer. So make sure you subscribe. Anyway, once again, I am Asa Morrison. This has been a weird week. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Make sure you do the big five, blah, 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 all of that. Take care of yourself and the people around you, and I will see you next week when I'm sure I'll say,